Hello, and this is Chris Mueller, and this is my voiceover of Advanced Modelling in the Games Engine. The first semester didn't go too great. The model was really rigid. The normal map didn't map very well at all. I put it across 3 texture maps as well, when it all should have been put into one 2048. The concept was to take Kage Maru from Virtua Fighter and put some mechanicalized parts on top of him, in place of an arm and a leg, um, taking influence from Raiden from the Metal Gear series. Um, that was the main concept, and the only thing that I kept over from the first semester was the base mesh, which you can see. It's not great; it's still pretty rigid and some poor topology, but it was okay to get started within in ZBrush. Let's see a screen grab of the last sculpt. It wasn't particularly detailed. It was still really rigid. The proportions weren't right. The texture's too flat. There's no AO baked in. It's okay, but it needed a lot of improvement. And the main area of focus for this semester was redo low poly, better detailed sculpt, and redo the textures was the main thing. You can see the sculpt now, and you can see it's a huge improvement from last semester. The proportions are better. Uh, the uh, the robe has been sculpted much better. The folds are much more defined. That was used with the standard. And if you hold Alt when you drag, when you click as well, it obviously pulls it in, and then it was smoothed and used pinch tool to define the wrinkles and the folds more. And the glove was intended to be almost like wrapped cloth, like a fighter, and it looked a lot better than last year. It was quite hard work to try and get it to look good, but it came out better than last year. The proportions aren't right in ZBrush as you see now. The arm is way too short, and that was corrected after it was retopped, unwrapped, textured, and finished. And then I changed the scale around just a little bit, just to make sure it's finished. But the lats are more defined. It's got a broader shoulders. The back's bigger. The head's the right size. The head's detailed. The head's got an alpha on the skin, just to make it a bit more realistic. There's scarring on the face, which wasn't there before. The hair for the eyebrows will just be painted on in the texture, in the diffuse. But yeah, the sculpt came out a lot better than it did the first year. The other part that I did and that I didn't do the first semester was sculpt the hard surface things and damage them. I just relied on the texture for this, and it didn't come out that great. And I wanted to include sculpting as part of the damaging process, and that was done um, mainly with alphas. I created my own alphas in Photoshop, and that was taking images such as pictures of bark, some scratches from CG textures, and put them in Photoshop. Made them grey, desaturated them in grayscale, sharpened them where they needed it, and that's pretty much it. Really, it wasn't. It's not a particularly hard process, but I made a bunch of them, and you can see them now. Yeah, that was a a good addition to the workflow that, to be honest, I haven't really done before, and thought it'd be a useful thing to learn and get used to, and it came out well. The damage is a hell of a lot better than the first semester. There wasn't even any indentations in the steel or anything, so it was a lot better, a lot better. With the alphas, the intensity was turned way down, and they were used with the drag. We just literally drag out the alpha as big as you want it, and just overlay it on top. And that was what I did with most of the scratches. I didn't use um, the spray where you literally spray them on. It worked better as as a drag, and just make them as big as you want, and then go over with the smooth tool, just to smooth them out where there's a little bit too intense, and that was pretty much all it was. The unwrap actually went really well. There's minimal distortion at all. It was really quite simple. I used pelt mapping for the body and the robe. The hard surface stuff was flattened and then stitched back together. And you can see in the picture, not everything was unwrapped because it wasn't necessary. It was just a waste of time. So things that could have been duplicated and rotated were to save time, which did, and it worked absolutely fine. Yeah, there's not much to talk about with the unwrap really. It came well. I unwrapped everything individually and collapsed two, and then added one UV unwrap to everything, and then I dragged it all out, and then just resized it all and put it into one texture map, and it came out well. And the try count this time was under or round, pretty much there. You can't quite see it, but it's around 12,000. It might be over by, I don't know. It's about 100 over maybe. But the try count's much lower. The robe has been retopologized well. Before last semester it was bad. The flow was really strange. There was a lot of verts all in the front and the back. It was strange. Didn't really work very well. But that was just a quick grab of a retop just to show you how it went. And this is it in max with the texture applied, with the diffuse applied, and the normal applied. There's no spec applied, but it looks a lot better than it did the first semester. You can see the proportions have changed as well. The arms have been made bigger. Well, sorry, not bigger, longer. So they fit, and it's pretty much their proportion. It's one of the things, I'm not from an artistic background, and proportion I struggle with, especially on humans, but I was quite pleased with how it came out at the end after a lot of conversations with Greg. It came out quite well. The cat rig is something that I've never used before. I've used biped and skin, which it was quite similar. Cat rig was definitely easier, which was it's not much to show really. It's been rigged in the T-pose, ready to put into mocap to see how it deforms, and that was pretty much it. Weighted with the skin modifier and envelopes. It was easy. It's posed now in a pose that was quite classic for Kage Maru. It's like a pre-fight stance, and he sort of wobbles backwards and forwards, and that was posed with the with what you saw when I rigged with the cat rig and the skin modifier, and that's what will be used to be imported into UDK and showcased. These are just some texture flats that are already on the forum, but I thought I'd include them as well. Whereas the unwraps, you can see that there's not much distortion. The diffuse has had a bent normal map and AO baked over the top and looks good. The normal map has very minimal errors, looks really nice, and the spec is the weakest part, which to be honest, I did it in a bit of a rush, but it does the job. This is just a quick fly around of the character posed in UDK in the cube, in a hollow cube with 3-point lighting and with his shaders applied. The shaders were tricky. To be honest, I didn't really notice much difference. As far as I'm very limited with UDK shaders. It's something I haven't really touched on, and I've done quite a few tutorials and looked over all the lecture notes. And as far as I know, I've built them fine, but they don't seem to be doing much. I can see a bit in the subsurface scattering on the skin, but I can't. It didn't seem to work very well on the metal parts. I'm not sure why, but they are done and they are in there. I'm not really sure what I've done wrong, to be honest. But as a project, as a whole on the project, it came out a lot better. loads better than they did the first semester. The normals map well. The topology is good. The low poly has loads more advanced features such as baking, lighting maps into it, which I haven't really done before. The project was a huge step up from last year. So overall, the project went really well, and thanks. And this is my reflective video.